Welcome everybody to another Indie Dev Showcase video here on the channel. Every Wednesday night we spotlight a variety of indie games submitted by developers, and these videos are the recaps of them. If you'd like to submit a game for us to take a look at for the Wednesday night streams or for our show Indie Inquiries, please get in touch. Unless I'm otherwise noted, these games are played with either press keys or submissions from the developer. And to begin this time, we are starting with the game Hibotchi, which I'm pretty sure I just butchered. And this is a game that's available on itch, and it's kind of a combination of several different genres. Developer mentioned inspirations from stuff like Slay the Spire. And from what I saw, this is essentially, I guess, a three-way combination of Tetris meets Cook Serve Delicious with a little bit of deck building roguelike, I guess, thrown in for crazier measure. So the concept is that it's our job to cook various food, and to do that we need to set up these blocks in a way that they will land either near each other or on each other in order to properly cook and create various menu options that the order that the customers want on the upper left want. And you have to avoid the various hazards that show up, and as you can see, there's bonus for getting additional options combined to get a higher score. Now the deck building comes in with the form of your kind of cooking cards along the bottom of the screen. They are based on a deck, and you'll be able to add more cards in as you progress through the actual game itself. And these will do things again that will let you move things around, shuffle, and it's designed to give you a little bit more leeway in terms of how you handle these options. Now, I will say from a presentation point of view, the game is not going to, I think, wow you, especially if you've played stuff like Slay the Spire, Monster Train, etc. But even at this early stage, this is a very unique take on this kind of crazy mishmash combination of genres. And I have to say, even though I was terrible at it, because I am bad when it comes to Tetris-style games, there is definitely something here if you are looking for a very different take on these genres. And the fact that it is browser-based means that you can play it right away, and there will be a link to it in the description down below. For our next game, we turn to Minute Metropolis, the action city builder. This is developed by Dejabon Games, and is essentially, I guess, one part vertical slice, and one part just crazy fast-paced city builder. The concept, as the title implies, is that you have 20 minutes to build the best dang city that you can. You choose a perk at the start, and the idea is that this is an entirely logistics-minded kind of focus. So you don't have to worry about making people happy. It's all about, okay, I need to sell my production, get things as organized and flowing as well as I can, and just get these goods to where they need to be. How this works is that every building will take in some kind of resource and usually will output something else that you can use. So food or farms will generate food, which goes to your people, which will generate kind of like a happiness or kind of a resource you can then use to produce other items. There are specific buildings that are designed to give you score. These are kind of like your prestige buildings, parks, and major artifacts, and they require a lot of goods to get created. So the challenge of the game is that you need to construct your infrastructure / economy as quickly as you can. Due to the road system, that only things that are connected via the roads will actually matter or be part of your production chain. Once you've gotten that going, you then need to invest heavily into the score producing buildings in order to raise up your rank, and that's what you see kind of along the top of the screen underneath the timer. And again, because this game is literally 20 minutes long, it means that you don't have as much time as you would like to build something massive as we would in something like Anno. And I think the game strikes a very interesting mix between like roguelike design and the kind of slow pace of a city builder. Because the maps are procedurally generated and you get a random perk, does give each play a certain sense of variance that we normally don't see from the genre. The downside about this game is that I feel this is a very great concept, but I don't think it goes more beyond that. If you're hoping for persistent elements, unlocks, new challenges, new content, etc., you're not going to find it here. Outside of the tutorials and the actual 20-minute campaign or 20-minute level, that's all there is to this game. And I found that it does feel like one of those titles that once you know what you need to do and can get an effective build order, that's basically it for it. If you are a fan of city builders but don't like, the multi-hour campaign structure of them, 20-Minute Metropolis certainly works, and I do think there is potential here for a more involved or grander kind of gameplay loop. But if you are somebody who likes the anno, you like city builders that you can spend hours building your perfect city, then this one may be too short for you. For our next game, we turn to Mana Spark, and this is a game that I bought, so this was not a dev-submitted title. But this was an action roguelike. It received several updates, and from what we played of it, it has some good ideas, but it definitely has some frustration to it. The story is that we are exploring a mysterious dungeon, trying to find and rescue people from our village. Standing in our way, of course, are going to be procedurally generated levels, bosses, and of course, the greatest evil of them all, RNG. So when you begin the game, you are able to start with this hunter character. As you explore, the levels themselves fall into that similar style of The Binding of Isaac, that you have handmade rooms that are stitched together to create procedurally generated levels. In each level, you'll find different events and items that you can use. By getting the kind of mana crystals, those are the kind of blue thing that you see underneath my health in the upper left, that is the persistent currency that is used to unlock new upgrades and resources that can be permanently available in subsequent runs. Run out of health, and you are sent back to your kind of camp/hub area where you can change characters, get new abilities, etc., etc. Now, the main frustration with this game is how your character attacks and behaves. It's a very deliberate style of movement. Once you start pulling back your arrow and getting ready to launch it, your character is immobile for almost like a half second. And in that time, it's very easy for enemies to get you. And this is again one of those action roguelikes where health upgrades, health recovery items are at a premium. Sometimes you'll get lucky and find them a lot on a floor. Other times you may go several floors and just not get anything, and you'll quickly or you'll slowly get whittled away in terms of your health. And as with games of this kind, it's easy until it's not. As you saw right there, that character almost one-shotting me, as I've spent the good, 40 seconds just strafing and shooting, strafing and shooting. Now, the bosses are fixed, and that is another issue with this game. At the end of each biome, you're going to fight the same boss each time, which means that if you're not prepared in terms of finding the right artifacts, it can become very frustrating to not have the tools you need to win. And while I do like the persistent elements and that kind of progression, Mana Spark kind of falls in line with something like Undermine or In Celebration of Violence, that the persistence is almost required to stand a decent chance of winning, rather than supplementing and enhancing the base content, as in something like Dead Cells, or probably a better example would be Enter the Gungeon or The Binding of Isaac. So if you are looking for a new action roguelike and haven't played Mana Spark yet, then it is a decent game to check out. But I do think there are better examples of this kind of design, especially something like Hades that came out in 2020. But with that said, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we have 3 more games to look at for this spotlight. And now for a quick thank you to our current Patreon supporters. And if you're interested in my books on design, they are available at most major retailers. 20 Essential Games to Study is for first-time developers looking to be inspired, and the Game Design Deep Dive series covers the history and philosophy of major genres, with horror coming later in 2021. For our next game, we have Seconds in Space. Now, when we played this one on stream, it was still in early access, but it has been released as of last September. And this is a kind of basic real-time strategy game, where the essence is that we're able to control our ships almost similar to the drag and like auto-target style of something like Weird Worlds, Return to Infinite Space, or some of the older designs. Your mission is to basically go from node to node on a map while dealing with these enemy ships and keeping your own fleet alive. As you can see right there, kind of like the main focus is moving ships out of the way who are being targeted and trying to focus down the enemy turrets in order to destroy the ship itself. Now, ultimately, the basic idea of this game works, but I don't think there's enough here for interest's sake if you've played other kinds of action roguelikes in the past. And I don't know what else is added besides just additional difficulty, and if there's any new elements with this game. But for what's here, it is just okay. And I'll be curious for everyone who did play this, how did it turn out at 1.0? For our next game, we have Spinch. And this is a 2D platformer. The art was done by a famed, I think, Canadian artist who I don't know their name off the top of my head. And yeah, this is one of those games that it's definitely a visual something. So the general gameplay is that we are in search of our family who have been abducted in this very strange world. And we are going to have to explore, find them, and get through some pretty crafting platforming challenges. Now, your main bits of movement tech is that you have a dash that you perform, and when you dash, you lose control over your character as it propels them in said direction. And you need to do this for not only speedrun purposes, but to get yourself enough velocity to cover some of these very wide gaps, as you can see right here. You can also bounce on walls and provide yourself with a little bit more cover. Now, we played this game into World 2, and I heard that it gets even more nasty in the later acts. Now, so far, for those who've been watching for like the last 40 seconds, you probably noticed something else. The art style is very aggressive on your eyes. And this was one of the issues I ran into when we were playing this on stream. That this game just really began to hurt my eyes as you were playing it. And unfortunately, that's not good when you're trying to play a very precise and challenging platformer. I found the sound effects to also be on the annoying side. You may not be able to fully hear it because of the fact that I have the sound a little bit lower, but the noise he makes when he jumps and kind of does his dashing just really began to grate on me. And while the game certainly is challenging, I think those issues are enough to make it kind of a pass for people unless you're willing to put up with it. If you are fans of titles like Super Meat Boy and other more challenging platformers, then Spinch definitely works in that aspect. But again, it was just very hard. Even as I'm watching this footage right now, I can feel like the little pressure coming back into my head from just staring at the screen. For our final game, this is an itch game that's currently free, and I decided to check it out on stream, and this is Terra Nil. And I really love a lot of the concept and design of this one. This is an environmental city builder / puzzle game, where your job is to basically reclaim the land after massive disasters and destruction have happened. So this is more of I think, a puzzle game than your traditional city builder. Each map requires you to complete certain tasks which predominantly involve getting enough of the land to be kind of healed again so it can be reused. How it works is that you have resources that you can't see in the bottom left, and you need to set things up kind of in a symbiotic relationship. So water can be set up to power machines. Machines can then be tied to or electrical generators or the wind generators. And you need to set things up so that wherever you place it, it will work on a specific area of land within its territory. So the more you build, the more land gets back, which gives you more resources. And it's a game of economics, as you're trying to do as much as you can using as few resources as you can as well. Also, I gotta say, the pixel art in this game is really impressive. Now, when we play this was during the summertime, and I do not know if there have been any major updates or additions to the game since then. But with the version that I played, my main issue is that the puzzle elements do become a little bit more of an annoying factor the more you play. How it works is, in the later maps of what we played, once you clear the first objective, which is usually turn enough of the land green, the game will ask you to now use everything that you've set up in place to complete secondary objectives, such as get enough flowers and bees, and even change the weather as well. These require secondary buildings, which have their own rules and options for how they're placed and what they work on. For instance, one thing is to set fire to certain buildings, burning the land to create charcoal and ash, which can be used to set up greenhouses. And the problem that I had is that it kind of removes the city building kind of organic, no pun intended, nature of the design, and forces you down a more of the puzzle linear route, because you have to be essentially planning 2 steps ahead if you want to clear these maps. Because your actual resource supply doesn't change, you have to, a really rough first half of a map can make things harder, if not near impossible, for the back half. With that said, I do love this concept, and there's certainly potential here as a very different kind of city builder. The aesthetics and presentation are spot on, and this will be something I would love to see how it develops when it is finished, if it does get finished by the creator. Again, I have not checked on this game since the summer period. But with all that said, that's going to do it for this week's Spotlight. I'd like to thank developers who submitted games. If you'd like me to take a look at your game for a future Spotlight stream, please get in touch. And we're always looking for submissions for our Indie Store page review show, Indie Inquiries, which is held on Thursdays. As always, check out our Discord and Patreon link down below, and come back for daily discussions on game design here and on game wisdom, where we examine the art and science of games. Until next time, take care.